It all started with this camera. More than 10 years ago, it changed my life. And that's how I learnt about Ukraine and Holodomor. This camera belonged to my great-grandfather, and now it's a special family heirloom for me, a symbol of the truth of genocide of Ukrainians. My great-grandfather, Alexander Wienerberger, became an accidental witness of Holodomor in Ukraine. And with this camera, he took historical photographs. Alexander wanted the world to be aware of the genocide of Ukrainians, but the extermination of Ukraine continues to this day. It is my turn to tell the world the truth about it. With my general job, it gives me a lot of freedom. I have opportunities to work whenever I like, wherever I like, around the world, really. I can work with a variety of different people. I like creating things. I spent a few years trying to figure out what I wanted to do with my life. So I went into catering, I went into radio, massage therapy. I tried everything, and I finally found art. I love photography. I think it's the perfect way of expressing an event. It's the personal touch. It is very much the connecting people with people. Can I take a picture of you eating an ice cream? Is that all right?
Of course you can.
Yeah.
You want a story? Can I be on the telly?
Oh, fantastic. When I was learning about the history of my grandfather, it meant that my whole career changed. My artwork is based on Holodomor, it's based on Ukraine. I want to go back to Ukraine now during the war, and that's the easiest way to be able to explain the situation to people and for them to understand the history of Ukraine. To be able to go to Kharkiv as well, to be able to stay in the same area again as my great-grandfather. People should know about what happened, because as you can see, history is repeating itself. So my husband is ex-military. He has served multiple tours in Iraq and Afghanistan himself. So we are all very independent people ourselves, very adventurous people.
Very simple to apply. And then it's just a matter of turning the windlass. And you just keep turning that and really, really tight until the bleeding stops.
Okay.
If bleeding continues, still after you've applied that, then apply another one above it.
Okay.
But don't remove the first one.
Okay. And we were best friends, still are best friends 17 years later.
There is a bit of nerves. You know, it is obviously an active war zone, but...
You know what it's like as well.
Yeah.
It's not that you haven't experienced similar.
Yeah.
You understand that it's part of the job.
Kind of, yeah. But yeah, I mean, it's, you know, the risk is there, but a lot of people live in it every day.
Living here is bravery.
Yeah.
Staying and fighting is bravery. Yes.
So, are you feeling about your inland trip?
That's okay. I think I've got everything ready. There's a couple of bits. I feel like I've kind of focused more on the safety aspect and less on the production side.
So, what sort of things are you looking at trying to achieve here?
Portraits mainly.
Yeah.
I want to try and take as many portraits as possible, and try and show the reality of what's going on.
I don't think that's the best job for me.
It's not too bad. What will you be doing when I'm away?
I don't know, parties.
College, maybe.
Yeah, college. That's about it, sleeping.
Come in a little closer.
Right,
I won't wipe your makeup off, I promise.
this is nice. Perfect.
I'm hoping the images that I take in Ukraine will be seen by as many as possible in London. I'm hoping to be able to have a large enough exhibit that encompasses other countries as well.
Bye.
I'm happy that I'm able to have a voice to be able to have that connection to Ukraine, and I feel like I love Ukraine so much it feels like I can help.
Bye.
It's like to be able to hug somebody that needs a hug. My main passion is anything to do with Ukraine. These terrible events occurred to the Ukrainians in the 1930s. Ukraine lost its war for independence, but kept on fighting. To crush this resistance, the Soviet authorities, on the order of the dictator Stalin, organized famine in Ukraine. They took all food from people by force. Millions of Ukrainians died of starvation. During this time, my great-grandfather arrived in Kharkiv, quite by chance. What he saw shocked him. Alexander began to photograph everything around him. He had memories of the horrors he saw. When I read his descriptions of Holodomor, my heart breaks. What people in Ukraine have gone through is inconceivably terrible. My grandfather's voice tells the truth that Russia has tried to hide for years.
It was in September. I was sitting in a sleeping coach of a speed train, Moscow-Kharkiv, that was carrying me to my new job. This long-suffering land looked even more terrible during the day than at night. At every station, plenty of carriages were waiting. They were packed with peasants and their families, convoyed by guards in order to be sent far away to the north, to the White Death. Nobody worked in the fields. Harvested grain was rotting under the autumn rains. I did not see any cattle, not even geese. Something so inhuman must have been the force that managed to ruin the flourishing country, once with plenty of food.
I have a connection to Alex of what he was seeing at the time, and the connection to Ukrainians. They want the world to know. They don't want to be able to sit there in silence again and the world to ignore what was going on. So it means a lot that I have an opportunity to be able to give an outside voice to different people and to be a witness of the atrocities that are going on.
Увага! Відбій повітряної тривоги. Відбій повітряної тривоги.
And this one is this building? Do you think it was taken?
Yes, this is the building of Держпром on the photo, and it hardly changed. In the building of Держпром, there was a governmental organizations. Your great-grandfather made most of these photos right here, in the historic part of the city.
So with this image that Alex took, where do you think this image was taken from around here? Like, close to here? You think there?
Here is the place.
So it's this.
At the beginning of the 1930s, Kharkiv was the capital of the Soviet Ukraine. Just at this moment, during the second year of Holodomor, your great-grandfather arrives in Kharkiv. Kharkiv, with its 1.5 million population, is the center of huge military industry. A hub on the main Russian weapon belt that goes from Leningrad to Kerch on the Black Sea. In these factories, everything that is valuable and of good quality in Russia can be seen. This huge country is working solely for the military industry. Millions of dollars in gold are spent on the red propaganda around the world. Blood and tears of people turn into the resources for the war. These huge factories, together with the barracks, were only islands among the raging, fierce famine.
Together? Is this okay if you come in very close?
Well, yeah.
Like family, together. Oh, big smile.
People in Kharkiv stay there, live there under shelling. Hundreds of volunteers work daily to save and feed others. Yet again, food has a special meaning.
Yes. Don't mess with me.
We bake bread. To be more precise, I give it the form with Maxim. I felt kind of guilt and was ashamed because people are at war there, and I sit doing nothing. I sit on a comfortable sofa, doing nothing. So I came here and started working.
I work as a dentist. I'm a dentist. I'm enjoying it so much deep in my heart because I do at least something for our heroes, for people who are being treated at the military hospitals,
So it's
In a ball?
yeah, you need to make a ball. Yep.
Yeah. So how come you came to set up this child?
Before war, we run quite big company, like 160 people, and but when war had started, I just can't have idea to continue this. I just understood it. I understood this is not important.
Yeah.
If you don't eat during the day, you start to understand that a lot of things are not so important. And I decided what I will do with scans.
Yes. And this is just as a fault.
This city was attacked by Russia in the first days of the invasion. Russia has not given up the intention to seize Kharkiv region, even now. The Russians continue to shell residential areas. They are destroying houses, hospitals, and even schools.
The district of the city is called Pivnicha Saltivka. The city ends here. A bit further, there is the Russian border. Consequently, just because of its location, Pivnicha Saltivka took the first Russian blows. Over 5,000 residential houses were damaged in Kharkiv.
We all lived here on Pivnichna Saltivka. My husband's parents lived here. I lived here. My daughter. I lived on the 6th floor, apartment 23. The first missile hit the 10th floor, apartment 39. Here, 9 people died at that moment. Petya Yakushev from the 16th floor still cannot be found. The family just cannot bury him. These are the belongings of our house's residents. Here is the shelter. We were here.
Було
280 of us.
Нам було
It was too crowded here. At 3:20, the house shook. We all went out, and there we saw that our house was burning.
У всіх мешканців
All residents of this house had a nervous breakdown. It was burning. It was completely on fire. We were not able to help the residents. We watched it in fear. We went outside. They were just flying. The airplanes, the Grad rockets, the Iskander missiles. It was very scary. I wanted to rush in there. I wanted to enter the apartment. I wanted to save at least something. It was good that I took photos and documents with me, but that was all. I was not the only one to have lost everything. Everyone's property burnt completely. There's nothing. What are we punished for?
In Moscow, one drunk state political directorate commissaire boasted to me that in the Great War, there were fewer deaths than now when they eliminated these Ukrainian pigs. Stalin is building Cheops' pyramid of human skulls. My assistant at the factory said. He was a Ukrainian engineer recently attached to me.
It's extreme sadness to see so much destruction, to understand that this is just a residential area. There were schools, kindergartens, so it's confusion and just so much pain and suffering. It hurts your soul to be able to see this, to witness this, and to know that some people will never get their lives back. So many people will pass away before their life could be rebuilt, and it's heartbreaking.
Since the first days of the war, we started to document crimes in Kharkiv and then in Kharkiv region as well. Because we understood at once that such an avalanche of crimes Europe didn't know since the Second World War. There were so many of them. In general, in our database, there are 27 various types of such crimes mentioned in Rome Statute, and these crimes were committed by Russians, Russian invaders. We want to prove that here there were crimes against humanity committed, such as tortures, enforced disappearances, extrajudicial executions, intended killing people with the use of guns. Such crimes as the large-scale traffic of children from Ukraine to Russia. Here, quite a lot of such things occurred. Well, we consider it as one of the acts of genocide. Most of all, we're concerned about who will respond for these hundreds of thousands of crimes. How many people suffered will be compensated. It can take much time. Such crimes do not have a limitation period. Even if it takes dozens of years, it still should happen.
So do you see the parallels between Holodomor and current-day events, the war?
This war showed very clearly that in the 1930s, in 1932, 1933, and now, Russia has had the same genocide goal: to eliminate Ukrainian people, eliminate people who consider themselves Ukrainians, who want to keep Ukrainian language, Ukrainian culture, Ukrainian identity. The goal both now and then was to destroy all this.
Obviously, there's so much propaganda going around, but when you have original photographs that can be checked, dated, when you have a camera that can be dated with a serial number, when you have that evidence, it doesn't matter what propaganda is going around anymore, because you have the facts. It's not a belief, it's not a feeling, it's not stories handed down to the generations. It's evidence.
My great-grandfather was born and raised in Vienna. Alexander Wienerberger was an engineer. He liked photography and spoke many languages. During the First World War, Alex was mobilized and he became a prisoner of war in Russia.
We are now in the arcaded courtyard of the University of Vienna. Here, Wienerberger has studied. He attended mainly lectures in chemistry. This knowledge in chemistry must have been of great advantage for him in the time of his captivity in Russia, as at that time, specialists with such kind of knowledge were very rare.
My great-grandfather was invited to work in Kharkiv as a qualified chemical engineer. There he was to run a plastic manufacturing plant. Alex came to Kharkiv and found himself in the epicenter of Holodomor.
I can't even tell you exactly how I came across Wienerberger. Of course, I got interested, and then I came across some unique documents. He has bought about 600 photographs from the Soviet Union, and a lot of them deal with the topic Holodomor. And it also turned out that those pictures are probably still the most important of all existing.
Alex risked his life in order to take these photos. However, the truth mattered more to him.
Now we are going to visit Maria Zakharevna Hudzenko. This August she turned 100 years old. She is a living witness of Holodomor. May we come in? Yes. Hello. Hello. This is our Maria Zakharevna. Come in. Come inside. Was your family wealthy? No. What did you own? No, it was an ordinary village family. The wealthy families were deported. The winter was so cold. The poor ones gave in quickly. Our father had a horse, a harrow, a plough, and that's it. So he didn't argue. He handed it over to the government. Then chaff was brought to the attic. Dad was smart enough to add grains there. They were mixed with garbage. When they came to search for wheat, they could find nothing. That is how we survived. Some people died, entire families. One family of 10, every single person died. Were there any stocks in your village? What stocks? There was nothing. Whatever was there, it was taken away.
It is incredible. 90 years after Holodomor, people on the same territories again have nothing to eat.
So we are driving to the area of Izium region, where very heavy fightings been during Russian offense and our counter-offense. And this area, which is before war was very rich. It was a lot of fields, farms, and currently the fields are not, you can't use them because there are a lot of mines. We can't use them to produce food, to provide this food to people who need it. Russia used the same weapon. Russia decide who will get food and who not.
Be as careful as you can. The demining corridor on both sides of the road is only about 3 meters.
Please.
Copy that. Here, this is for you. Natalia, how many people lived here before the war?
738 people.
How many people live here now?
129 people now. The village was very prosperous. We had a very good, rich village before the war. But you see what Russian aggression has brought us. It brought ruin here. Every house is destroyed. Every house is burnt. This is my house where I lived. We lived here for 10 years. Now, almost nothing remained from the house. There, on the second floor, there was my apartment. Our village was directly on the defence line. It was the front line. The most intense combats were here. We were shelled from mortars. There were grads, smirches, uragans.
When you walk into a village and see every single building destroyed, with bullet holes, windows missing, it's really hard to quantify the sorrow that you feel in your soul to understand just how much hate had to go through there to be able to create so much destruction on other humans. And in some places, it's to the degree that you would think there was never life there in the first place.
There is no electricity, gas, and no water supplying the village. However, people still come back to their homes because they want very much to come back home, to be in their country.
What really surprised me was the resilience of these people, because even in some of the worst hit places, there were still people there. And not just adults, there were children there managing to survive through the most awful conditions.
I was born in this village. My dad was born here, as well as my granddad. My great-granddad died defending this village in the Second World War. That's why I'm very much attached to this place, to this village. When I'm asked why I didn't leave, why I came back even though I have no place to live, I reply that I just cannot leave because, you know, I'm rooted here, as they say. I really want to be home.
Hello,
Hello.
my name is Samara.
Nice to meet you.
And you. Was this your farm and what happened here?
Так, це
Yes, it was and is our farm,
наша ферма,
our agricultural enterprise that I inherited from my parents.
Я успадкував від своїх батьків, вирощував
We were growing wheat, sunflower, corn.
сонях, кукурудзу. Російська армія
Russian army stole everything.
майже 80%
Almost 80% of the machinery park.
техніки, це там трактори,
Tractors,
машини.
vehicles.
Вони вкрали
They stole
мінеральний
mineral
продукт,
manure that we didn't take with us.
вкрали
They stole
посівний
seeds.
матеріал. По свідченням місцевого
According to the
населення,
local
раз на
residents,
тиждень,
twice a week, military
приїжджали
Ural
військові
trucks would
урали,
come.
вони це все діло
They would load them
вантажили,
and
і
leave.
вони виїжджали. І отак от кожен тиждень,
And for 7 months of
порахуйте
occupation,
самі, там,
every week,
7
they would do it.
місяців
Count for
окупації,
yourself.
можна було
They could carry even the land on
навіть
which it
це,
stands.
як воно стоїть.
The henchmen of punitive units invaded the village and, under a pretext of tax debts collection, took away the last remaining foods of the starving peasants. In order to find the hidden stocks, they even used earth borers, like those used for geological searches. All this happened when 15 million tons of wheat were in Russian state silo towers for the war purposes.
Найперше, що я відчув, що
The first thing I felt
справа
is that
мого
the thing I
життя,
lived for,
так, те, що починали мої
something that my
батьки,
parents started,
чим
that was my life
я
for the
жив
last
останні,
15
там,
years.
15 років, воно зруйновано.
It was ruined. My
Моя
hope,
надія,
my work.
мій труд, більшість руйнувань.
Most destructions in the farm are the result of our shelling by our artillery and aviation, because it was necessary to destroy the enemy.
Скажімо так, я особисто
Let's say it happened this way. I personally gave the positions of my farm. There at that moment, there was military personnel and the equipment.
І особовий склад, і техніка, де стояла.
So how did you feel about making that decision to have that impact on your own land?
Ну, як інакше
What is the other way to win this war? We need to make sacrifices.
Це ціна нашої
This is
перемоги.
the price for our victory.
There are so many heroes that I think need faces out there for the world to know that these are the heroes that have saved not just Ukraine, but Europe as a whole.
У нас
They
забрали
took away our dream,
нашу мрію, наше
everything we
все.
had.
Everything I have seen in Ukraine is the story of sacrifice. And it's so important that people understand today the sacrifices being made here.
Зараз ми знаходимося в населеному пункті Слатини.
Now we're in the town of Slatin. One of the biggest columns heading to Kharkiv from the north was stopped here.
Півночі 200
200 armored vehicles with personnel,
складом з
weapons, petrol. It was very powerful.
Дуже потужно. Я тут
I was
народився,
born here.
виріс
I grew up here and have lived here my whole life.
Так що тут все моє життя. В районі станції
Around the Slatin station, there was a big battle.
Була знищена
The
повністю
station was
станція,
destroyed completely,
бібліотека,
as well as a
купа
pharmacy
магазинів.
and plenty of shops.
Дуже складно
It's very hard to believe
ця школа
that the school where I
зруйнована.
spent all of my school years is destroyed.
Все шкільне життя, до речі, будував
By the way, my dad built it.
Але найбільше
However, the hardest thing is to think that children will not come here soon,
сюди не скоро повернуться діти, тому що
because the town is destroyed completely.
пункт,
There are no people.
де немає людей, знищуються
Schools are being destroyed, as well as culture.
Люди не зможуть
People cannot come back to this territory where there are no facilities, no schools.
де немає шкіл. А
People from these places in particular, these are mostly people who suffered in 1932, in 1933, in Holodomor.
I remember how I went to the city with Mum. We passed by a woman who fell, dying from hunger, and a toddler was crawling on her. With Mum, we walked and watched. It was scary.
моя сім'я також зазнала.
My family also experienced genocide back in 1932-33. Grandma was from a big family. There were 17 children.
Було 17 дітей, але
That year, however, only 11 children survived Holodomor.
дітей з родини, 6
6 died.
І коли приходили
When they came to dispossess them, they kicked out the whole family, all 11 children.
дітей, бабуся готувала.
Grandma was making some mayre borscht. I didn't know from what products.
З чого. Забрали
So they even took the cooking pot from the stove. They didn't even let the children be fed.
нагодувати дітей.
Many Europeans witnessed the terrible tragedy of famine in 1933. However, only some of them realized that in fact, it was a well-organized collective murder, unprecedented in the world history for its scale and cruelty. Samara, we are right now by Kolonda Hora in Kharkiv. Since 1933, your great-grandfather had lived and worked here. Here is the factory and living premises for the staff. This picture was taken opposite the factory. We know that this girl's father worked at the factory. They were undernourished. They were also poor.
My grandfather's photographs are precious testimonies for Ukrainians. Russia has always denied
This is Озрянська Church.
Церква. Ми можемо
From these details, we can see that it was this house.
що це саме цей будинок.
Why
Чому
here?
саме тут? Тому що
Because across from the
через
church, there is
дорогу
Holonoyorski
від
Market.
церкви знаходиться Холодногірський ринок.
So this would have been quite a busy road in 1933?
Цю дорогу ще
This road was nicknamed the Road of Life.
життя. Ці люди
These people hoped to find
сподівалися
refuge
знайти
either in
або
the
в
church
церкві,
or at the market.
або на ринку. Ми бачимо, що люди
see that
навіть не
people do not even
жертвують.
beg.
Вони просто
They
помирають.
just die.
Alex kind of enjoyed the danger, I think. He definitely was always out there to live life to the full. He was not afraid of Russians. I feel proud of him. My grandfather had got a bit poorly, so I was seeing him very often. And he had decided to clean out his attic. And he had 3 cameras sat on his dining room table. And one of them happened to be a very old Leica. So I said to my granddad, "Oh, how come you have this Leica?" And he explained to me that he was given it as a wedding gift when he married my grandmother. And he told me to go and speak to my grandmother because there was a story behind it. And he told me to take the camera. And I was then told this fantastic story of how my great-grandfather Alexander Wienerberger managed to photograph Holodomor. My grandmother was born in Kharkiv, and she witnessed slightly what happened herself, and it was a story that she hadn't told anybody. Then my uncle, he was going through my grandmother's stuff, helping her organize her house, and the Red Album was found about 2 years later. And my grandmother said, "No, Samara can take it because she keeps the family history now." My grandmother explained to me about Holodomor. I was surprised that I hadn't been taught about it in school, to be honest. It was kind of disbelief that something so tragic could happen and nobody knew. So I was confused and, say, in disbelief. I did not even know what Holodomor was.
The tragedy goes on. Soon, the peasants who arrived in larger numbers by the day sold the last remaining household items, the last clothes they were wearing. Fights in the shops were becoming more and more fierce. They were dying on the streets en masse, spreading their hands swollen with hunger, begging. First, the men would die, then women, and finally children. Poor, innocent little ones.
На цьому місці
Here, hundreds of children, victims of Holodomor, are buried.
Ці діти
These children died in Saltivka Children's Town.
дитячому містечку. Це трудові
These are working barracks for children who were taken from the streets of Kharkiv.
збирали у вулицях Харкова. Їх ховали таємно.
They were buried in secret, but the witness, who lived nearby, told how he saw across the fence the truck to arrive and to load right here the bodies of the dead children. This is one of such places. There are many such places in Kharkiv.
If the world understood the history of Ukraine, maybe they would have understood a bit better what Putin was capable of and what he was going to do.
Unfortunately, most of Alex's photos have been lost. 2 of the albums survived. One of them was found in Vienna in the church archive.
I had to prepare a presentation about the role of Cardinal Initza, Archbishop of Vienna. Naturally, I needed some sources. Among these numerous protocols, letters, documents, I saw something extraordinary. These were photographs made by the Austrian engineer Alexander Wienerberger. It turned out that the photo book with these photographs was personally handed by Wienerberger to Cardinal Initza. There was a very special reason for that.
My great-grandfather knew that he was taking a risk, but he wanted the world to see these photos. Therefore, he sent them to Austria by diplomatic mail. However, the government decided not to make these photographs public. Austrian politicians didn't want to spoil the relations with the Soviet Union.
The Chancellor of Austria reacted very negatively. There was even the risk that these negatives might be destroyed. Because of this, engineer Wienerberger was looking for a person to whom he could entrust these photographs.
The Archbishop of Vienna was one of a very few in the world at the time that stood with Ukrainians with a call to help. That is why my great-grandfather gave his photos to the Cardinal to keep.
Today, when we're experiencing this invasion, this full-scale war, we see a lot of parallels. We see how important it is for all of us to be courageous and to witness the truth.
The trips I've had out to rural places, just how much people do love their homes. But when you hear stories of people that have had everything taken away from them, living under occupation, being held at gunpoint, people having to bury the dead and refusing to leave, it shows just how much of a connection people have to their land and how important it is to them. It was their land, it was their home, and they were not going to give that up. And to me, that's the Ukrainian spirit, is that love for their land, for their people, and nothing will ever stop Ukrainians being Ukrainians in this manner.
I photographed the Ukrainian village again, which I visited in spring of the terrible 1933. It was horrible. Half of the houses were empty. There were no dogs, cats, but there appeared more rats, who in daylight were gnawing in the bony dead bodies scattered around. The few survivors had no strength to bury their dead. The cases of cannibalism were ordinary. The government didn't even react. The little child's parents did not dig the deep enough grave in the frozen ground of the totally neglected garden by their house. Soon, they also died of hunger. And soon, the snow melted. 2 dried hands of the child were sticking from under the ground, reaching up to the sky, as if asking the heavenly forces to punish those guilty for this unmeasurable pain. On March the 24th, Russians entered this side of the river. The house was damaged on March the 9th. An air bomb hit here. People died here. Many people died. Over 70 people. Since March the 26th, I started reburials. Because in the whole city, there were plenty of graves, dead bodies. Sometimes even dogs would bother the dead bodies. Sometimes we would fight for the bodies with dogs. We would dig up the bodies because there were graves by the flower beds, by the roads, by the doors. There were graves in the gardens. People made graves where they could. Bodies were carried along the walking bridge, wrapped in blankets on the stretchers. There were debris as high as the 3rd floor. The slabs were stacked. Everything was hanging. It was scary. We started to dig actively in the 2nd part of April. They were all in the cellar, so it was completely cleared sometime at the beginning of May. The first bodies were taken out. There were families here, as well as children and elderly people. The whole family of 9. Here on the square, we would put them, and I would carry them to the cemetery. Like this.
This building is like a good expression of the emotions that you feel on the inside, just broken and ruined, and it's hard to put into words. There's just so much pain and suffering here that it's hard to want to feel it.
They treated us like animals. We were consumables to them. They were lords here. They did what they wanted to do. They were not humans, that's it. This building, before in Soviet times, was a detention center. It was closed down many years ago. In this building, Russians arranged a place for tortures. In such conditions, they kept dozens, even hundreds of local citizens who supported Ukraine.
Були проукраїнські налаштовані.
"28 Russian torture chambers were discovered in the Kharkiv region after it was liberated. It just reminds me that the Russians are incapable to behave in a human way."
They were searching for our military, territorial defense. Those who spoke in favor of Ukraine. They were taking people to the cellars, beating, taking them away. Many people taken away are missing now. There were people shot down, beaten, badly beaten. I took girls shot down. There was a girl named Nastya. She was shot down. They brought her from a Russian hospital. She is from here, from Izium. On her body, there were signs of tortures. They brought her here. They forbade to bury her. Sometimes there were children. The bodies of children shot down.
I had a minibus and a thermobox left in the car park. That's how I carried away the bodies. Here, there was an auto barrier to drive in. Here, there was a tank. Here, there were armored vehicles. Further, there were dugouts. With Gazelle, I would drive in here. Then, from behind, here I would stop and I would unload the bodies. Sometimes there were 15, 20 bodies in the car. Sometimes 5. Here, we would bury the Ukrainian military. 17 people. They were shot down, tortured to death. Some of them had their hands tied with wires. They all had their limbs broken. I dug a hole for myself here. When I brought the bodies, the Buryats, Russian soldiers, took them away and brought them here. When the shovel was thrown under their feet, they said, dig. My whole life passed before my eyes, and I had nowhere to go, because he had the gun to my head. My relatives are buried in the cemetery here. I started talking to them, saying, wait, I'll be right with you. Some relatives survived, while children were killed. They would bury them in the gardens. Then they would ask for our help, because in the whole city, there was only one funeral home. Parts of bodies were buried, arms, legs, heads. It looked very traumatic, especially when you bury children. You walk along the street, they're scattered there, on the right, on the left. Sometimes people could not bury them deep enough, but they were torn by dogs. Then the bodies were brought here, half-eaten. They would lack an arm, a leg, faces were eaten. It was impossible to identify them. Local authorities were clearly confused about numerous bodies. They were literally everywhere. From Moscow, the authorities got the guidelines about not providing any help to the starving peasants. However, they had no information about what to do with the victims of Stalin's mass execution. At first, these bodies were buried right there, in the gardens, in the backyards. However, as more and more bodies were found there, trucks would drive along the streets twice per day. In the evening and at dawn, they would carry them to the mass graves in the city outskirts. When the bodies were collected for the burial, there were scenes that would curdle the blood of any somewhat decent, civilized person. Dead babies were snatched from the hands of their crying mothers. Living babies were taken away from the dried breasts of their mute dead mothers. Children were crying and wailing. The elderly people were extending their hands, lean as bones. Their eyes were dull of fear. The woman from whom they took a dead child was wailing, asking to be buried with her. A cruel corpseman smiled at her. "You will be done by evening, Mum. Then we'll collect you." I was empowered by the hope that Ukraine will finally come. We will be liberated, and all this will stop. We'll live like before, and our Ukraine will flourish. The war must be terrible. It's not as beautiful as in the internet. They're just trying to eliminate us totally. However, there are guys like us who are not afraid, who since the first days went to protect this city, the homeland. I'm the master of sports in close fight. We all trained in the same gym. Grappling, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, close fight, MMA. In our platoon, there are plenty of boys whom I knew when they were still 13. Then, we were running various trainings for them, where we were talking to them about weapons and Russian aggression. We were just telling them the history of Ukraine, telling them that Russia is an enemy. Now, together with me, by my side, they are defending our country. Some of them were already wounded more than once. Some, unfortunately, have already passed away. People are there, by the house, do you see? Do you see them? Be careful. It's clear, it's clear, it's clear. Well, stiffs, welcome to fucking Ukraine. Control, damn it. It's not just a war, it's a survival war. Either we live as Ukraine, as a nation, or we'll just be the second rate, the colony of Russia. I've never invited them here. I don't want them here. Russia kills people like a bacterium, a virus. It kills people. My motivation is for my son not to live in the cellar. For me not to worry about my family. I want to see a free country, for which my grandparents fought, for which I am fighting now. I want the whole world to understand that Russia is not just an aggressor, but a terrorist machine that will never stop until it is destroyed completely.
Today, Ukrainians are actively fighting against Russia. They also fought against the Soviet government. However, the forces were unequal then.
This bayonet is evidence of the peasants' resistance during the massive collectivization and Holodomor. It belonged to Krivonyos brothers from the village of Sobichev in Sumy region.
Ukrainians didn't want to obey the Soviet authorities, give their property to the state, and create collective farms.
The climax of peasants' uprisings is exactly 1930. That year, over 4,000 uprisings occurred on the territory of Ukraine. Almost 1 million people took part there.
The Soviet authorities confiscated weapons from Ukrainians and shot local leaders. Despite this, it was impossible to curb the Ukrainians' fighting spirit.
When Stalin faced this massive resistance, his famous phrase appeared, "We can lose Ukraine." In order to not lose Ukraine, to eliminate private farming, they applied genocide with hunger.
Чай, кофе?
Please.
Каву?
Наразі оголошена повітряна
I was a compressor equipment sales manager. Before the war, I worked at a factory as a finisher. I'm a machine gunner. In civil life, I was a construction worker. Me too.
So that was helpful in building this and why it looks so well made?
We can say so. I know how to handle things.
So do you think that the outside world supports you enough, or do you think you need more support from the West?
If we don't get help from the neighboring countries, we'll lose then. With this, famine will come, as well as slavery. So there is no victory without help. We shouldn't let Russia win, in order not to reproduce 1933. Unfortunately, Ukraine doesn't have as many resources as Russia. Of people before they do.
The Ukrainians' response to the aggression was immediate. They fought, they resisted in an attempt to save their country. The price was very high. Young boys, 18, 19, 20 years old. Young men and women who did not even have time to start families. Entire family branches, generations can be lost. In this war, not only men and women perish, but even those who have not even yet been born.
These people have been doing this for nearly a year and a half, 2 years. And they are so strong. They are still every day getting up, trying to make their life as normal as possible. And that resilience is very hard to find in this world. But I understood why they wanted to do that. There was so much hope, even in the most darkest of places with every Ukrainian here is like this, that they have this drive to make sure that their country is their country, that their language is safe, their culture is known around the world. And I think Putin has done the opposite of what he wanted to do. The strength and the voice has just grown. Everybody knows where Ukraine is. Would it be possible to have a combination of this image with this color?
You know, it's like, can you show me first? It's art, it's Nikita Tito artist. I think it's not a good idea if we change some things, because it's like original art.
I see, okay, so
Yeah,
just
it's
this.
important.
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah, I understand. Okay.
Okay, we
Yeah.
can.
Thank
Are you ready?
Yes. I've always understood who Ukrainians are, just how much resilience they really had, the way that they came together and hold each other up and support each other and give up anything for each other. They would give up their lives to save other people. They love their country. They want to make their country better. I love it. Thank you so much. That's amazing.
Good to me.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Wow.
My great-grandfather is a model for me. He not only took photographs of Holodomor victims, he brought them to Austria. Alexander Wienerberger did everything to make the world aware of the famine provoked by the authorities in Ukraine.
These are unique photographs that quite explicitly show the course of Holodomor. They are important as evidence. He can be called a main Holodomor photographer. Alexander Wienerberger, in fact, was one of the few voices telling the truth, trying to wake up Europe and the world in order to stop Stalin.
I want every person in the world to know what Ukrainians are going through. I want everyone to be fully aware of the ongoing genocide. Russia does not give up on its intentions to destroy Ukraine. And because of this, I have to keep on telling the truth about it.
Here abroad, I was thinking about what I could do for Ukraine. Whenever we are, we have to remember where we come from. Once, Taras Ponieshko, an author of the idea of Save the Hero's Grave project, made a request in order to find a grave of Alexander Wienerberger in Salzburg.
До правого рівняйся. Прямо глянь.
Since we managed to find the grave of Alexander Wienerberger, the Ukrainian community is taking care of it.
Цілість, дволаву, ставай.
Memorable events are held here.
Слово другу коменданту.
Dear young people, I'm greeting you. We don't know where all our princes are buried. We don't know where our hetmans are buried. Most of our heroes were killed by Russian agents abroad. Preserving the memory of our heroes, we are standing for our dignity.
Почесть дай.
When I, in the light of a torch, was poking around the reserve tank, another driver approached, introduced himself, and asked if I was a foreigner. Yes, I said. He leaned very close to me. His eyes were stricken with sadness. Don't you see what's going on in this country? Don't you understand anything? Do you have the heart of stone? Of course I see, comrade. I'm not blind. I replied somewhat coldly. But what can I do, even if I wanted to do anything? Dear comrade, he raised his hands imploringly. You are a foreigner. You can get out of this hell any time you want. Tell them at home what they do to us here. Europe has to help us. Don't leave until you promise to me to raise your voice, to accuse these murderers at the court of the world's conscience. Yes, I said. I promise. Here is my hand. We parted. I drove home along the dark streets. I kept my promise. In the honor of the hero, the engineer Alexander Wienerberger clasped glory 3 times.
Slava! Slava! Slava!
For you.